Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bio4 Human Anatomy at Cabrillo College. The goal of this video is just to give you kind of a where to get started with the class. The class officially starts on Monday, June 13th. It's currently Saturday evening, June 11th. My name is Matt Halter. I am one of the instructors for the class. I'm the instructor for the lecture component and one of the lab sections, while James Williams is the instructor for the other lab section. So I will be teaching lab section 1, which is 9:30 to 12:35 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. James will be teaching section 2, lab section 2, which is 2 to 5:05 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays. So to be clear, both labs are meeting Mondays and Wednesdays. This is an 8-week course. Traditionally, during the normal semester, fall or spring, this is a 16-week course. Labs meet one time per week, 3 hours, one time per week. Since this is an 8-week course, it's condensed. It's half the amount of time. We are meeting 3 hours 2 times per week, 3 hours on Monday, 3 hours on Wednesday, and that is for lab. For lecture is 100% asynchronous. These are pre-recorded videos, which I will show you where to access those. These are all via YouTube. These are my videos that I've put together. It's my voice you'll hear in the videos, most of my drawings, and that's how you're going to access the lectures. Once again, asynchronous just means you can watch these videos whenever you want, as long as you get it all done and understood by the first lecture exam or any subsequent exams. So let's just take a look. Let's just peruse Canvas a little bit here. Over on the left-hand column, home button, modules, which I'll show you right here. And actually, just for fun, we'll look at the student view. And this is what you're going to be seeing from the student view. So I'm just going to minimize these drop downs. And we have exam 1 material and human anatomy lab skeletal components. So let's just focus on exam 1 material. Exam 1 material is specific to the lecture component of the class. The skeletal components material is specific to the anatomy lab. So to be clear, you get 1 grade in this course, and it's that grade results from the combination of your work in the lecture part of it and the lab component. 70% of your overall grade is coming from the exams or assignments pertaining to the lecture. 30% is coming from your lab grades. So if we look at exam 1 material, I have all the lectures for week 1. For example, the first one is on anatomical terminology. If we click on that, there's a video link right here for anatomical terminology. You click on that, it's going to take you to YouTube, and here is that first video on anatomical terminology. Justin Bieber postpones tour. That's very sad. Okay, but that has nothing to do with our class. So this is where you would access the lecture video. Then there's terminology and questions for discussion. This is your study guide for that component or for that lecture. So I am giving you your study guides for the exam, in this case for exam 1, from the get-go. So for every lecture I'm giving you, any set of videos that I'm giving you, it is accompanied by the study guide, which includes this terminology and questions for discussion. So what you should know from anatomical terminology is everything I discuss in that particular lecture, all of the terminology, and be able to answer the questions I've posed here. To be clear, most of my videos are about 15 to 20 minutes long, maybe 25 at the longest, which is dramatically shorter than a normal lecture. So everything in those lectures is fair game for an exam. And I say that because during a normal in-person lecture, or instructors tend to go on tangents or talk about things that may be irrelevant. And that can be sometimes hard to parse out what's important and what's not. But I'm going to tell you right now, in all of these pre-recorded videos, everything is important because I'm not going really on tangents on any of these. And then I also have what you should be reading in that textbook, in this case, chapter 1. So that's how you're going to access your lecture videos. Here's another one on cell division, terminology, questions for discussion, and here's your video. You just click on that and it brings you to the YouTube video for cell division. Okay. So if we go back to the home page right here, let's just look at the syllabus. And I'm not going to go through this syllabus in its entirety. You are required to read this on your own and to know everything in the syllabus. It describes the course, it talks about COVID, and I'll just give my 2 cents on COVID. We don't really know what's going on with the pandemic at this stage, other than there is I believe, a dramatic increase in COVID cases throughout the state, and I think in particular in Santa Cruz County. So please wear your masks. You are required to wear masks in the lab. So please come prepared for that. I will have extra masks in lab in the event that people forget theirs. But yeah, COVID's an issue. So hopefully it doesn't rear its head anymore during the summer and we don't miss any classes. And it's not really an issue for the lecture component of the class because that's all online. We are not meeting in person at all for the lecture. It's all asynchronous online. Required materials. We have a Human Anatomy by Merriam, Brady, and Mallet. And that looks like this. This is what the textbook looks like. You can get the hard copy or you can get the electronic copy or you can get both. And I'll talk about that in a moment here. But that textbook is required for this class because you're going to need to read the textbook, like I referenced, read chapter 1 for anatomical terminology. And we're also going to have homework assignments via a program known as Mastering, which we see right here. So to do these mastering assignments, you need that textbook. So if you go to the college bookstore, so let's just do that really quick, just walk through that process. If I go to Cabrillo College and I go to students, and let's do this, students, I go to bookstore, and let's see, how are we going to find this? Course material and textbooks, find course material, and then I'm going to select term down here, summer 2022, department biology, course is 4, because this is Bio4 Human Anatomy. Section really doesn't matter, but we'll just put section 1 and retrieve the materials. And up here is going to show you the Human Anatomy text, which you can add to the cart. So I am a bit unclear, to be honest with you, when you add it to the cart, and I'll try to work on it. You can get a digital rental, you can get a digital purchase, excuse me. The Human Anatomy Lab Manual is to be purchased in the bookstore as well. And here's Human Anatomy Modified Mastering. So by purchasing this is, I'm assuming, I'm just going to click to the cart and see what this does. Go to the cart. And I'm not going to purchase it because I already have this and I don't need this. But I'm pretty sure they're just going to send you a code. And I'm 99% certain that if you have this mastering, you purchase this for $105, you're going to get the electronic version of the textbook, which is what we see right here. And this is via Pearson. I click on continue. This is bringing me to the textbook. specifically to body orientation. You can look at the table of contents and peruse the table of contents and go to any chapter you want. Let's say central nervous system, it's going to take you to that. So this is going to be the exact same material that is in the hard copy textbook. So what you need to determine is if you prefer to have a hard copy in your hands that you can feel and turn the pages, or if you're okay with the e-text. So you will need the textbook and you will need mastering. So I'm just going to close this. I'm going to close, we'll just go back to Canvas here. So those are your materials. The Human Anatomy Lab Manual, which I will show you in a moment, is in the bookstore as well. I have given you guys in Canvas, and I will show you this, a PDF file of the lab manual. So you do not have to purchase the lab manual if you do not want to. I believe it's only about $10, which I know for some people $10 is a lot of money. So if you can't afford it, you can just use the PDF that's here in Canvas. But I encourage you guys to get the lab manual because I really think there's benefit in having the hard copy. If for no other reason, when we are working with the human cadaver, and we will be doing that in this class for 2/3 of the term, you want to be able to have the lab manual back there and not have your cell phone back there where you're looking at the lab manual and getting things dirty. So I think having the lab manual is very nice and useful, but not necessary. So if you don't want to purchase it, certainly don't do it. If you have any financial challenges, I can see if there's any resources on campus to help you out. We have quizzes June 19th, July 3rd, July 17th, and July 31st. And the exam dates are June 26th, July 10th, July 24th, and August 6th. So basically what this comes to, this is an 8-week course, and we are going to have an exam every 2 weeks. So the first exam should be 2 weeks after the beginning of class. Beginning of class is June 13th, and June 26th is 13 days from there, so almost 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks we have an exam. Every 2 weeks we have a quiz, which means every week we will either have a quiz or an exam. Exam 1 is going to be on reproduction, body orientation, histology, integument, and bones. Exam 2, nervous system, special senses, muscles, so on and so forth. This is an extremely fast-paced class, and for 2 reasons. Because it's in 8 weeks, and because the anatomy lab itself is enough material for its own separate class. But historically, it's never been its own separate class. It's never been its own separate class at Cabrillo. It's never been its own separate class anywhere I've taught or when I took it as an undergrad. So it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of material. It's going to be a lot of great material, and I think many of you are going to thoroughly enjoy the class, none of which has to do with me. It just has to do with the material. So get going on this sooner rather than later. So let's look back at the modules. I'm going to close exam 1, and here is the schedule for the Human Anatomy Lab. So summer 22 lab schedule, we click on that, and this is what we get. So on Monday, June 13th, we're going to be studying the upper limbs in lab. And so we're going to have bones in lab, which you're going to be able to hold on to and find features on these bones. Wednesday, June 15th, we're doing lower limbs and appendicular skeleton. So this is moving very, very fast. Upper limbs in a traditional course, we would just do in week 1. But because this is a condensed course, it's 2 weeks in 1 week. That is to say, upper limbs, lower limbs, and appendicular skeleton are all going to be our focus for the first week, June 13th and June 15th. And then there's going to be 3 practicals, practical 1, practical 2, and practical 3. These are going to be the bulk of your points for the lab material, or 30% of your overall grade in the class. There will be a histology assignment that I don't have on the schedule, but we'll talk about that at a later date. And that's really an assignment you'll be able to do at home. If we go back to modules, here's the anatomy lab manual. So if we click on this, this is exactly what you can buy at the bookstore. Once again, if you don't want to buy it, here it is. And this is going to tell you everything you need to know. So here is the table of contents. Not necessarily in that order that I just showed you. We're going to be starting with upper limbs, not necessarily the vertebral column during week 1. Then lower limbs, skull, what have you. Muscles of the cadaver. Then we're going to learn the brain, the eye, organs, what have you. So if we look at this, let's say we want to find lower limbs, we want to find upper limbs, because that's what we're going to start working on Monday. So that's going to be on page, I guess it's 15 of this PDF. So here's the humerus, and I just passed up on the scapula and clavicle, and we can look at those. But the humerus is the bone of the upper arm. So if you grab your bicep and you feel that bone in your arm, that is the humerus. So you need to be able to identify the humerus, and you need to be able to identify any structures that have bulleted points on them. You also need to determine if it's right or left, but determine what part of that humerus is the head, what is the greater tubercle, what is the lesser tubercle, what is the intertubercular sulcus, so on and so forth. So for the humerus alone, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I believe I counted 12 structures there on the humerus alone that you need to learn. And you're going to learn this in lab. So what you can start doing right now, Saturday night if you want, Sunday, while you're in church, whenever you want, is just start writing these terms down and memorizing these terms. That's a great place to start, partially because you're going to need to spell all of these structures correctly. If you misspell them on a lab practical, you're going to get points docked from your overall score. So learn these terms. You can look online. So if I were to go to google.com and type in the humerus, click on images, you're just going to get a litany of images of the humerus. And if I click on this, it shows the head of the humerus, the greater tubercle, lesser tubercle, intertubercular sulcus, capitulum, trochlea, what have you. So that is going to be a great resource for you. If we go back to modules, another resource are these videos I've made. So here's a video on the humerus, and I'm going to cover all the structures on the humerus right here. And there's going to be another one for the radius, which is a bone of the forearm, and another one for the ulna, which we see here, another one for the hand, so on and so forth. So these videos are not mandatory for you to watch. They are an adjunct. They are here to help you out. I wouldn't be looking at these videos when you come to lab. The whole purpose of lab is for you to actually have these bones in your hand to learn from them. And that's what you're going to be tested on. You're going to have the actual bones in front of you during an exam. But these videos are a great way to get you started on learning the material. And then we have more videos on the lower limbs, the vertebral column, skull, what have you. The skull is extremely challenging. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So the sooner you get going on all this, the better off you're going to be. So if we go back to modules here and go to lab schedule, I have upper limbs scheduled for Monday, June 13th. That doesn't mean you cannot learn all the upper limbs and move on to the lower limbs. The sooner and the more quickly you get ahead of the ball game, the better prepared you are going to be for practical 1. If you don't start studying the skull until Monday, June 27th, you're going to have a tough time doing well on the practical, which is going to be 2 days after that. So my advice to you is get going on this ASAP, as soon as you can. And I know class doesn't start till June 13th, but if you can start studying some of this material prior to showing up on Monday, that's going to benefit you greatly. So that's the lab. That is the material for the exam. We are going to have online homework assignments via a program known as Mastering. It's put out by Pearson, which is the publisher of the textbook we are using. It's not hooked up yet or connected to Canvas because I can't figure out how to do that. So hopefully by Monday morning, I will have talked to a representative from that company and they will help me out, help me out in setting that up in Canvas. So I think that's about it. Once again, lecture asynchronous lab Monday morning at 9:30 if you're section 1, or at 2 p.m. if you're section 2. If you are registered for the class and you don't show up for lab Monday and you don't show up, well, let's say if you don't show up for lab Monday, you're going to be dropped because there are a load of students on the wait list who are trying to add this class. And I have to abide by the room capacities due to the pandemic. I can't go over that number. So we need people in the class who are serious about taking the class. And I know the commitment in summertime is tough for a lot of you. It may not be the right time for you. It may be the perfect time for you to be taking this class. But if you are not there Monday morning at 9:30, I'm going to drop you and give your spot to the first person on the wait list. And then if someone else gets dropped or someone else doesn't show up, I'm going to give it to the second person on the wait list. If you don't show up on Wednesday, the same thing is going to happen. So I need to see a commitment from you coming to lab both Monday and Wednesday of next week, and ideally coming to every lab every week, because that's the only way you're going to succeed in this class. Okay, I think that's it. It's still Saturday night, and you may hear from me again before Monday. If not, I will see you on Monday. I do have office hours from 12:35 to 1:35 in room 623. 623 is the anatomy lab. So I'm teaching it from 9:30 to 12:35. And then for the next hour, I'm going to remain in there for office hours on Mondays and Wednesdays. So if you are in the Wednesday class, which I'm not teaching, James Williams is teaching that lab. But if you're in the Wednesday class and want to come early and just say hi to me, you can do that. I will be there on Monday and I'll be there Wednesday, and I'll be there every Monday and Wednesday for the next 8 weeks. And if you have gotten going on the lecture material, it's a good time to come and start asking me questions about things that don't necessarily make sense to you. Okay, enjoy your evening.